Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 10 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're going to learn artificial intelligence or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice large glass of iced coffee. That's straight up black coffee poured over ice. No sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and let's talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to teach you how to do is I'm going to teach you how to process mouse events or mouse clicks in OpenCV. Because as you're doing artificial intelligence and as you are interacting with an image from your camera, you're going to need to be able to process a mouse click so that you can interact with your active frame. So that is what I'm going to show you today. And always, as always, I will be giving you a little bit of a homework at the end of the program. So what I will need you to do is call up, I will need you to call up your most excellent Visual Studio Code. And then we're going to come over here and we are going to start a new program. And so I will come down and click and I will come up here and say, create a new file. And this is going to be OpenCV -11, I do believe .py, and the .py is kind of important. And boom, now we have a fresh new Python program just waiting to be written. Now we don't want to go in and just start from scratch every week, so we're going to start with that core program that we always start with that basically sets up and launches our webcam. And you can find that if you don't already have it. You can find it at the most excellent www.toptechboy.com, and you can use this happy little search bar here and you can search on the lesson, which is called Faster Launch of Webcam. If you search on Faster Launch of Webcam, you will come to this, and this has a little snippet of code you can hit. I better get out of your way, huh? There's the happy little search box. You are going to search on Faster Launch of Webcam. You'll come here, click on these two little page icons. It'll select all the code, right mouse click and copy, and you have snagged the code. Come back over here, right mouse click and paste. And now you have that core program that should launch the webcam. Just to make sure that the universe is in proper order and that we can, in fact, copy and paste without breaking something, let's go ahead and run this. Let's see here. Come over here and run this. Takes a second. Okay, boom. There it is. All right, we can copy and paste and have things still work. All right. What you have to learn how to do today is you have to learn how to get input or understand that the user is trying to get the program to do something with a mouse click. So you've got to sort of sit, if you're the program, sit and listen for a mouse click. And then if you see a mouse click, depending on what the mouse click is, doing something interesting or relevant. And so how do we go about doing that? Well, what you will need to do is you will need to come over to your program here, and you've got to kind of create a listener that listens for the mouse click. And so I'm trying to think, I think I will do that step right before the while loop. So you come right before you go into the while loop, and what we are going to do is we are going to do a CV2 dot, and then it's going to be set mouse call back like that. Make sure you look at the capitalization. The capitalization is very important. All right. And now we have to tell it what window, that it should be listening on, because we could have more than one window open, more than one video window open, and we have to tell OpenCV which window should you be listening for a mouse click on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do our main window, which is my webcam, right down here, my webcam. That will be the window that we will be looking for a mouse click over. So my webcam. All right. Now the other thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to define a function. Like when you hear a mouse click, when there has been a mouse event where something happens with the mouse, you have to have a function that you run to when that happens. So really all set mouse click callback does is send the program to a function when something happens with the mouse. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to have a function, and I am going to call that function mouse click. So now we have a couple of problems right now. One is we haven't defined the function mouse click. We will do that. And the other problem is that when we do this command, we have not yet created the window my webcam. So if we just ran it now, this program's going to crash for two reasons. One is if you mouse clicked, there's not a function mouse click to go to. And the second thing is that it's going to be looking for a window called my webcam, and that window does not exist. So let's go ahead and make that window just so that we don't have a crash when we try to run this. And so what we are going to do is we are going to do the CV2, and we are going to do the command named not two dots, named window, like that, named window. And then what do we want to call the window? Well, we would just want to call it my webcam. All right. And so what this is doing is this is creating the window up here that we are going to be using down here. But what's the difference? We create it here, and then when we use this command, the set mouse callback, it will not panic because it doesn't know what my webcam is, because that window has been created in the line before. I hope that makes sense. All right, now we've got to actually process the mouse click, and therefore we need a function called mouse click. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to define that. If you have been taking all my lessons, you should understand functions. So I'm going to define the function, which function? Mouse click, like that. Okay. Now, when this set mouse callback calls the function mouse click, it passes it some parameters. So we have to capture those parameters between the parentheses in mouse click. And one of the things that it is going to pass it is an event. And that event is what has actually happened with the mouse. Maybe you've pressed the left mouse button down. Maybe you have let the left mouse button up. Maybe you have pressed the right mouse button down or let it up. Or maybe you have moved the wheel on the mouse. There's all these different events on the mouse that can happen, and each one of them has a number. And what this set mouse callback does is it passes a number to the function mouse click to let mouse click know what the mouse has actually done, if that makes sense. And as we go on, it should make more sense. Okay, so it's going to pass it event. That is, what did the mouse actually do? Then it's also going to pass the position of where the cursor was when the mouse event occurred. And that is going to be some X value, and it's going to be some Y value, like how many pixels over in X and how many pixels down in Y. And so I'm just going to grab that as X position, and I'm going to grab that as Y position. Now these are numbers that are being passed to mouse click. I could have called event anything that I wanted to, X pos, Y pos. Those are just variables that I'm making up to catch that data that is coming from the set mouse callback call. All right. Now there's two more parameters. I care a lot about what the event is, and I care a lot about X position and Y position, but it passes two more things that I'm not going to use, but I have to have variables there to catch them. And the first thing is just flags. Okay, I'm not even going to talk about flags because we're not going to use it, and then some parameters. And so I just put in a variable for flag and a variable for parameters, and that way the program doesn't crash. But we're not going to be using those, and so we are not going to worry about it. Okay, now what we have to see is you are only going to end up in this function if somebody has done something with the mouse. And so then I want to do certain things based on what was done with the mouse. And so let's just see if we can pick up a click, like the left button click. Let's see if I can just sense the left button click. So let's say that if the left button is clicked, then it's going to come up and you're going to be inside this function. So I'm just going to do something. I'm just going to say if event if event equal CV2 dot event, and then which event do I want to look for? L for left, B UTTON, and then DOWN. So what that means is if the event was the left button was pressed down, then you will be inside of this if statement. Well, then what would I want to do inside of this if statement? Well, I'm just going to print, and I'm going to say mouse event was, and it's going to print out a number, but then we can see like what is the number associated with the left mouse click. And so we're going to print event like that. And then also let's print at position, and then comma X position, comma Y position. So this will give us the X and Y value of where the mouse was when it was clicked. Okay, does that sound good? I think that sounds pretty good. And then let's just do the same thing for the mouse up. And if you think about it, when I press the button down, eventually I'm going to have to let it up. And when I let it up, that creates a new mouse event. And so this, then we could do that by coming down here and pasting. And now we're just going to kind of edit this. And I'm going to say if CV2 event left button, instead of left button down, L button up, like that. And then I'm going to say the mouse event was event, and then where it was when that happened. And so this should detect the left mouse button being pressed down or the left mouse button being allowed to come up. Okay, I hope this actually runs. Let's give it a try and see what happens. Okay, we've got a big window, and I think you can see my cursor. And what I need you to do is look down here, right? Look down here in the bottom of my Visual Studio Code under the 4.5.3, and it should print out when I actually do a mouse click. So I'm going to press the mouse button down, and it says mouse event 1. So left button down is 1, and it was at X position 389 pixels over from the left and 137 pixels down from the right. Well, let me go way, way, way down here, and now I'm going to let it up, and then I get the second mouse event was that left button popping up, and that was at X position 1,123 over and 691 down. So you see, that is pretty cool. Now let's come up here. I'm going to come way up more towards the upper left and click. And you see that was at 3 pixels over and 6 pixels down. So that you can see is very much up towards the top left of the picture. And then 993,505 is more towards the bottom right. This is very powerful, guys. Do you see how now we can interact with the picture, interact with our video by seeing what the mouse has done and where it was when that happened? So let's just say, one of the things that I might want to do is just put a circle on my video where I've clicked my mouse button. Put a circle where I've clicked my mouse button. Now, what you might think about doing is you might think about right here doing like a circle, a cv2.circle command right here. But the problem is you've got to do it. You've got to do it down here in your while loop, because you can't do it just one time when there's a mouse event, because then that circle would only be there for one frame. And then the next time through this while loop, it's going to disappear. So you have to do your circle down here in the while loop. So every frame it grabs and every frame it shows, your circle is going to be on there. Now, what you might think about doing, you might think about doing something like right here, saying something like if event equal, like what was the mouse down event was 1. If event equal 1, something like that, and then come in here and do something. Here's the problem. Event is a local variable. It is a variable associated with this function mouse click. The rest of the program doesn't know that this variable event even exists. It doesn't know that it exists. And so if we just ran this program now, you would get an error that it doesn't know what event is. And so what we need up here is we need to create a variable inside this function that is a global variable that everybody, all the other parts of Python, will know about it. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a global variable, and that global variable we'll just call EVT for event, if that makes sense. And then what we can do in here is we can say EVT is equal to event. And so now we're setting the global variable to the local variable, and then it should be known down here. It should be known down here. All right, and so what we would do is we would now make this EVT, because that is the global variable. So now, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? If this CV2 set mouse callback is going to be sitting there and looking at this window, my webcam, and seeing if the mouse has any activity. If there's any activity on the mouse, it will call the function mouse click. Then up here at mouse click, it's going to look at the event. What happened that made you jump over to this function? There was some event. Well, if that event was left button down, then we are going to do this. If that event is left button up, we are going to do this, okay? But while we are in here, we are going to set EVT, we are going to set EV2 to event. And the same thing here, we'll just do this for later, get it ready. EVT here is equal to EVENT, like that, event. Okay, so when the mouse button goes down, we know it. When the mouse button comes up, we know it. Okay, now what do we want to do if EVT is 1? Now, why did I set it to 1? Because that 1 is the integer value that the callback passes when the left mouse button is pressed down, and that's why we printed it, so we know what it is. So what are we going to do here? If that happens, then EVT is going to be equal to 1. We'll end up here. Well, then what do we want to do? We want to put a circle, CV2 dot circle. And then what do we want? Well, we want to put it where? On frame. That's our image. And then where do we want to center it? Well, we want to center it where we mouse clicked it. And so we're just going to call that point, PNT. Now, what's the problem? I don't know what point is. What I know is X position and Y position inside of this function. So now I've got to create that point. And so what I can do here is I can say PNT is equal to what? It is equal to the tuple X position, Y position. And so PNT is a tuple with two values. The first value is X position. The second value is Y position. It's like a little array you could think of it as. Now, in order for the main program to know what PNT is, in order for this program to know what PNT is, what do I need to do? Well, I need to make it global up here. So now I'm going to say global, and I am going to make PNT a global variable like that. Okay. Now if we come down here, you can see that it's no longer giving you the little squiggly warning. It actually knows what PNT is. So now we got to go ahead and finish this circle command. So we are going to come in and we are going to put frame and then PNT, and then it wants a radius. Well, let's make it 25 pixels just for fun. And then it wants a color. Let's make it blue. So remember, the colors are blue, comma green, comma red. And so we'll make blue to 55. We'll make green 0. We will make red 0. And now we have our color in, and then we want our thickness of our circle, the line on our circle. We'll make it a 2. Okay. And now that should make a circle when that left button goes down. When that left button goes down, it should put a circle right at that point on our picture if we are thinking about this right. So let's run this thing. I'm so excited. Denied. Okay, so EVT is not defined. What is this nonsense? Okay. So why did this crash? Because I set it as a global variable. Well, think when I run the program the first time, has the mouse been clicked? No, it hasn't. So will I be inside this function? No, I won't. And so I've never been inside this function. So the variable EVT has never been set because the mouse has never been clicked. So we better seed it with a value here. So we better just say EVT equals 0, just so the program doesn't crash. And so the first time through, it's going to say, is EVT equal 1? Well, it's not, but at least it's going to know what EVT is, and so it's not going to crash here. I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Kill that. Run it again. Okay. Now let's come up, and let's come up here, and let's click. Boom. Who's your huckleberry? We get a circle until I let the button off, and then the circle disappears. So watch this. I'm going to go mouse down, and I get a circle, and it stays there as long as the left button's down. When the left button comes up, the circle goes away. Now, why is that? Well, let's come over and look. The first time we click the mouse, we call the function mouse click. When it comes up here, what was the event? Well, the event was left button down. And because left button was down, we snag X position and Y position, we put it in the variable point, and this EVT is set to 1. Okay, and then we come down here, and as long as the button is down, that EVT stays at 1. Okay, and as long as it's at 1, it keeps putting the circle on it. Now, as soon as I let it up, there is a new mouse event. There is a new mouse event. And so the set mouse callback calls mouse click a second time because there's been a second mouse event. It comes up to mouse click, and this time the event is L button up. This time the event is left button up, and now EVT is going to be left button up, which is the number 4. And therefore, when we come down here, EVT is no longer 1. EVT is no longer 1. Okay, it's no longer 1. And therefore, on the next time through, it's not going to put the circle on the frame. It's not that it's erasing it. It's just you're putting that circle on there every time through the while loop. And if EVT changes, you don't go into this if statement, you don't get your circle. And so how could we do this? Well, we could say if EVT is equal 1, or if EVT equal 4, because then when we let the mouse button up, it's going to be 4, and then it's going to keep putting the circle on there. Does that make sense? Let's try this. Okay, now I'm going to left mouse button down. We get the circle, left mouse button up, and the circle stays. Okay, now if I press it over here, what's going to happen? That one is going to go away because I have a new mouse click, and I have a new X position and a new Y position, and it's going to show up over here. Now watch this, down. Boom, it's over there. Up, it stays there. All right, pretty cool, huh? So wherever I go like that, it's going to move it around. What if I wanted to get rid of it altogether? What if I wanted to get rid of it altogether? Well, let's make a new. Let's look for a right mouse click. So I could say if event equal CV2 dot CV2 dot event, and now it's going to be R button. Let's do an R button up. Okay, and so when I press down on the right button, nothing's going to happen, but when I let the right button up, that's when the circle we want to disappear. So I'm going to say right button up. Now, when that happens, then I'm just still, I'm not going to even have to set the, I will though, point is equal to X position, Y position, just because we might want to use that later. And now EVT is equal to event. Now, the problem is right now, I don't know what the number is that goes with that right button up. So I better print it just so I'll know what it is. So I'll say print, and I'll just say right button up. And what is that going to be? Well, we're going to find out because we're going to print event like that. Okay, and then we'll go in and we'll do what we want to do, but we got to know what that number is first. So I'm going to go like that. Okay, there it is. All right, there's our circle. Okay, there's our circle. Now, what I want to look is down here in the print, area, when I do a right mouse button down, it doesn't print out anything, but then right mouse button up, you can see right button up is 5. And that's what I needed to know. And so then what I can say here is, I don't even think I need to do an if statement, because once it comes in here, it's going to set EVT to 5. And because EVT is 5, it's not a 1 and it's not a 4, I will not come back in here. So as soon as that right mouse button is released, EVT is going to become 5. Because of that, it won't end up in the if statement, and therefore it won't put the circle on there. Remember, you have to put the circle on every frame. When you don't put the circle on again, it doesn't show up. So I think that is all we are going to have to do. And so let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so I come over here, get my circle, get my circle, get my circle, get my circle. Now I am going to right mouse click down. Nothing happens. The circle stays there because I'm looking for the up. I release and the circle goes away. Boom. Okay. So do you see how we can process mouse clicks? And you can look, you can play around these same things. See what happens if you move the wheel. See what happens left down, left up, right down, right up. Do the different things with the mouse. And then also you can see that it also is always wherever the cursor was when that happened, it's going to give you that X value and Y value of those things. So that is pretty darn neat there. I think that is just pretty darn neat. Okay, so we have learned how to interact with our OpenCV video window using the mouse. Now we can let those mouse clicks then fire off and make other things happen that we would be interested in. Okay, so this is your homework assignment. I want you to create a region of interest using your mouse. I want you to create a region of interest using your mouse. So on your left mouse button that you will position your cursor, when you press that key down, that is going to be the corner of your region of interest. Then I want you to drag and then let the mouse up, and that's going to be like the bottom right. So the first click, your click down is the upper left of your image. And then over here is going to be the lower right. And then when you let it up, that will be the lower right corner. So now you have defined a region of interest. And then I want that region of interest to show up as a separate region of interest window over here. So you kind of click down, click up, and then you grab that and you move it over here. So now you got a second window based on, where you clicked. So you're defining that region of interest with the mouse. Then what I want is that if you right mouse click, I want you to kill that window. I want you to kill that window that you just generated. All right, so if you left mouse click down, that's the start of the region of interest. Left mouse button up, that's the end of the region of interest. And then right mouse button down, you kill that region of interest window. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay, guys, I hope you are having as much fun taking these lessons as I am making them. And I need you to leave a comment down below. If you were successful, I need you to leave the comment, I am legend. If you were not able to do this homework on your own, I want you to leave the comment, I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. And if you guys do fold up, that's okay, because you really learn when you really try to do something and you can't do it and you're just hopelessly stuck. And then when you see me do it, you'll actually understand it and learn. If you just watch me do it without trying to do it yourself, you don't learn anything because it just seems easy. Oh yeah, that's obvious. I would have done it that way. But you got to kind of struggle with it on your own before you watch me do it. So I'll come in on the next lesson and I'll show you my solution to using these mouse clicks to generate a region of interest. Okay guys, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to leave a comment down below. The thumbs up and the comment help me with the old YouTube juice and help these videos be shown to more people. And then also, if you've not already, be sure and subscribe to the channel. Maybe share these videos with someone else. Okay, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.